how to find one's personal path to beauty and wellness without using chemicals, will be revealed today by Ayurvedic practitioner Joe Formosa. Ayurveda, or which in Sanskrit is known as the science of life, is a traditional Indian medicine system focusing on biology, hygiene, diet, and medicine. Millions of people around the world live in accordance to these principles with enthusiasm, energy, and good health. So Joe, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What brought you to the field of Ayurvedic medicine, and what has led you to become such an expert in this field?
Neeti. From a very, very young age, as the age of 14, I had quite a lot of back injuries, and I was playing a lot of sport. So I got very interested in natural medicine then, and then I studied, when I finished school, remedial therapy, and then I went on to acupuncture. And then one day I was at a conference where one of the Ayurvedic doctors was presenting in Ayurveda, and I was so inspired because it actually allowed me to see, oh my God, there's the gap of what I'm missing in actually helping people and treating people. So I asked him if he would teach us, and so he developed a 2-year course here in Brisbane, in Australia, and it was just amazing. So that was the very beginning, and then I continued studying with another doctor, Dr. Ajit, and then another doctor, Dr. Smita Naram. So with the 3 different doctors, they all trained very differently, but they all gave me different aspects of Ayurveda. So I got a very well-rounded education in how to actually help people in Ayurveda.
So Joe, can you tell us a little bit more about Ayurveda? What is so good about it, and how come it's slowly becoming more popular these days?
I think, Neeti, Ayurveda is the science of life. So what I actually love about that is it never changes. So how it is, it's very scientific. And the reason why it's becoming so popular is so many people are going to doctors and they don't know what's wrong with them. And the doctors are trained to treat people in disease state, which means they're already in Ayurveda in stage 5 of disease. So we go and talk a little bit about, and I explain to my clients exactly how disease happens. So you have the 6 stages, and we actually treat really, really well in the first 4 stages. We can also treat in 5 and 6. But the fact is there's already imbalances happening at a very, very fundamental level.
Okay. So despite our bodies being similar in some sense, there is an element of uniqueness to each person. What is it that makes each of us unique, especially in relevance to body type? Not just our physical attributes, but psychological and emotional as well.
So everybody today is looking for the answer. Like, why am I this way? Why was I born like this? How come my friend or my brother or sister doesn't look like me? But in Ayurveda, everybody is unique. So when you're born, you're actually born with that body type because the DNA is actually formed at conception. So, and then also your body type is formed at conception. So what you're dealt with is actually who you are. What happens today is people are trying to be something that they're not. So that's causing a lot of unhappiness, and people are unhealthy and things like that. So the body types, there's 3 different body types in Ayurveda, one being Vata, one being Pitta, and one being Kapha. So just simply, it's like the Vatas are more the skinny minis, the Pittas are more like the strong, very structured, very determined body type. Kaphas are more laid back, they can put on weight easily, but they're more like the big teddy bear,
Now you mentioned a little bit about doshas. What are the qualities of these doshas? And do they have particular strong or weak points?
Yes, so Vata are more like highly nervous system, so they're very more highly strung, so more dry qualities, and so they more have like dry skin, more things like they have variable appetite, they need to eat a lot through the day, just tiny little meals. Pittas are more like, they're like your gung-ho, they just get things done. They're like your lawyers and your doctors and your business owners because they just go for it. If they've got a project, nothing stops them. Even if when you'll know the Pitta, because if they're hungry, they'll knock you out of the way to go and eat some food. And then your Kapha body types are the ones that they will walk into like a cafe, or they'll go, I can't lose weight, I just have to look at food. So they have more of a slow digestion, so their quality is more heavy, where Pitta is more fire. So they all have their unique qualities, and if you know how to balance their qualities, then you have good health.
Okay. And do the doshas have different strong or weak points?
Yep. So, everyone goes, I don't want to be a kapha, I don't want to be heavy, But one of the beautiful qualities of kapha is they're so grounded, right? And they have such a good, strong constitution. So their good qualities is the fact that grounded and constitution. Their bad qualities, if you call them bad, is that they can gain more water, more swelling, more heaviness and anabolic, so they build more fat easily, right? Your pitta's good quality is that they're more passionate and determined, right? The negative qualities, they can become angry and frustrated and overheated easily and have the disease states of acidity and things like that, a lot of inflammation. Your vata qualities is they're so creative. They think of so many different ideas and they've got so many things going on all the time. So they have they're like a little, like a butterfly or a bird just flying around. So they're always light in energy. Probably negative qualities or bad qualities would be that they get dried up. So they have more things like osteoarthritis and things like that because the tissue becomes more dry. And they become more agitated with anxiety and nervous system.
What would be a simple piece of advice that you would give to your clients or the public to harmonize these doshas?
I think one probably really simple one is find out what your body type is and accept it. And then once you know it, then eat accordingly to your body type. But we also say, patients come in and say, what is my body type? I need to know my body type. And it's not necessarily all about that. It's first, get yourself out of disease, out of balance, the imbalance first, then eat accordingly to your body type.
And we're a society that's very highly based around food. So how can one incorporate diet to live more in accordance with your natural doshas?
So eating to your body type is looking at the foods that are going to be most nourishing to you, okay, and the ones that are not to avoid. Doesn't mean you have to become like a monk in the Himalayas, but the fact is to avoid those things that they are only occasional foods. So with your vatas, not to eat so dry, raw foods. With pitta, not to eat hot and spicy and irritating foods, and kapha to get away from the sweet, dairy and high carbohydrate bakery food.
And how can the majority of people benefit from Ayurveda?
The majority of people, when you say the majority of people, I look at your little people, kids, to, your business people, to your elderly people. So again, I think it comes back to really understanding your body type. So, and also in accordance to a family is eating, not treating every child the same. So there's some children who don't need to eat all the time, and as adults or as parents we say eat, you got to eat, and we actually could be causing them imbalance at such a very young age. So I think knowing that and having an insight of that intellect, because children have already the unique intellect, and then that gets destroyed as time goes on, and then that's where disease starts.
So Ayurveda and the other applied Vedic sciences emphasize a lot about the sattvic lifestyle, or a lifestyle based on the mode of goodness. Can you please explain a little bit more about what it means to lead a sattvic lifestyle, especially in relevance to Ayurveda?
So Ayurveda is such a huge subject, right?
Yeah.
So that's when you're talking about sattvic, you're talking about the mental gunas. So there is 3 mental gunas, which is tamasic, rajasic and sattvic. Okay, so living a sattvic life is living more of a pure enlightened life, which means having foods accordingly to not only your body type, but that is going to be more sattvic. So that's more things like no meat, or less of, things like meditation, eating accordingly to the seasons. So therefore the body is more we call it in Ayurveda, has prajna apparata, which is knowing, and is not the mistake of the intellect. So knowing what to do, when to do it. When you're eating more sattvic, your body will tell you when you need to change.
And what would be 3 practical recommendations to those that are interested in following this path and heading in that direction towards more sattvic lifestyle?
Definitely look at more vegetarian type foods, and people go, oh my god, I can't eat vegetarian, that's not going to fill me, I want to be more muscle and all that sort of stuff. But actually there's a lot of people who eat vegetarian who have high density muscle, right? It's making sure you're eating good quality. Also eat accordingly to the season. We bring in so many different foods all the time, which are maybe genetically modified, all sorts of pesticides and herbicides and things like that all over them. So the fact is eating accordingly to the season. And I would also say looking at meditation.
Yeah.
You know, meditation is huge, or yoga, some way that your body can actually have the ability to have like mental relaxation and state of balance.
Is there any relevance, urgency, or strong necessity for Ayurveda in the Western world?
Nidhi, I think, well, see, I've been in clinic for 22 years, and in definitely the last 10 years that I've been working more predominantly Ayurvedic, I'm seeing more and more people search for us, because the fact is that they don't know what to do. Like the doctors have said, I can't do anything else. I can only give you this drug and you need to have it for the rest of your life. And you know, some of the doctors that I work with, they put up their hands and they say, we can only do so much. We're not trained to look at how to help your lifestyle, to help you to be healthy, right? And that's why we work really well together, you know. So the fact is, in the Western world, I think it's definitely needed, because it's becoming more fast-paced, more imbalanced, and we need a way to bring it down to be simple.
And do you think that Ayurveda is a magic wand or quick fix that can solve and treat illnesses in any stage of disease, or is it more a preventative approach to medicine?
I always get surprised by Ayurveda, you know, definitely looking at the different ways that we look at how to diagnose the patient from the different 8 limbs. We look at definitely the nadi, which is the pulse, and the tongue is one of our huge impacts, where, like our huge findings, where we actually can find out a lot of things. So with that in mind, when we look at that, we look at not only where that disease state is in the process, but what got it there in the first place.
Okay.
You know, so if you look at what got it there in the first place, then we can teach and educate so it doesn't come back.
Yeah.
You know, but if it's got to a certain point, sometimes we can only help that person to have a better quality of life, because sometimes the disease has gone too far.
Can Ayurvedic treatments cure diseases such as Ebola, SARS, cancer, AIDS? You know, what would be the techniques? Have you had any successful case studies based on these diseases? And what are the main reasons behind these diseases according to an Ayurvedic perspective?
Yeah, Niti, definitely with Ayurveda being 5,000 years old, it has one of the best arrays of Ayurvedic doctors and professors around the world. So there are clinics in India mainly, which are called Panchakarma practices, which treat these diseases at a very high level. But what it actually entails is between 1 to 2 to 3 months of continual detoxifying and cleansing processes. So they will basically create a nutrition in the cells. So it not only scrapes out all the toxicity, it then nourishes. So there is thousands and thousands of cases of people who have had these terminal illnesses which have actually turned around. We've actually had a couple of cases in the clinic where we have supported a client through their treatment of cancer, and also had them go to India and come back and have been completely in remission. So I think, like for anything, you know, when you actually have a disease like this that has gone to that far, it is really important to make sure that when you're in remission, that you're actually taking care of what actually got it there in the first place.
So in today's world, we're always endeavoring to be seemingly fit, healthy, and happy, but we end up sick and frustrated. And as the saying goes, stressed, depressed, but nicely dressed. So what do you think is the main reason behind this? Why are people constantly in this state?
That's a really, really good question, because I treat a lot of high-end executives who definitely fall in this category, where they're doing really, really well in their life, and the fact is their businesses are running really well. They're highly successful, but like anything, if you don't have your health, you have nothing, right? Your body, your whole life can actually be very poor. And they come in at a point where they're going, I don't know what to do, you know, I can't keep living like this, you know. So the reason why it's happening is because Ayurveda looks at a disease state 80% of diseases is caused by Vata imbalance, right? And so we go, what is Vata? Vata leads the nervous system, so it causes a lot of stress in the system.
Yeah.
So when there is like a lot of stress, you can eat the best food, it can be super organic, but the fact is your digestion will not recognize it like that. So that's number one, that's stage one. And that keeps going, and it's a daily basis. So you can have all of these things going on, but if your life is full of stress, then it doesn't matter what you do. You can do everything perfect, but still have an imbalance in your body. So it's really important to be recognizing this.
I'm going to ask a question about a very controversial issue. What is your professional opinion on vaccination and immunization?
That is very controversial,
Yes.
and I'm not sure. I'll only answer it in my own experience. My little girl was vaccinated when she was 2 because her grandfather had polio and also lymphatic cancer and throat cancer. So my husband really wanted to have her vaccinated, only with a small amount of things, but just in that little bit that she had vaccinated she became full-blown eczema the next day.
Okay.
So it took me, even in my knowledge Ayurvedically, it took me 2 years to completely turn that disease around in her. She now no longer has eczema, but the fact is I had to work really hard to get it, her to get that. And the second thing is we've had many cases of clients who have been immunized, and I've worked with many medical doctors who also work with kids who have been immunized, who have had autism and other things come up straight after that immunization. So you can say, should you or should you not? The fact is, you're putting in a vaccine which is actually giving a dose of that disease to that patient or the child, and therefore if that child's immunity is low, then it will have a reaction to that. So it's a risk, that we take. And then other people would say it's a risk not to do it because what if they get that disease? So, I got whooping cough when I was in uni studying, and I was vaccinated as a child, but I still got really, really sick. So, I think everyone has to come to their own personal decision, but I think it's very, very important to have a look at both sides. A lot of medical doctors actually don't vaccinate their children, and that's actually a known fact.
And do you think Ayurveda, as an ancient science tested by time, can help us be absolutely healthy and happy? And in your opinion, is there such a thing as absolutely healthy?
Well, absolutely healthy and happy, like it's a spoonful of sugar, makes medicine go
Yeah.
down, something similar to that. Well, in Ayurveda, it really looks at very, very simple. If you have good digestion power, you have good Agni, which is your digestive fire, which means you have very little ama or no ama. Ama is basically toxins in your body. So if there is toxins starting to be in the dosha or in the body, it will start turning into disease, which will make you unhealthy and definitely not happy. So I think happiness can come from a couple of different things. We look at physiology, being how your body is operating. Am I feeling strong? Am I feeling healthy? Yeah, that's definitely one, but sometimes I always look at what's coming out of your mouth is also really important. So if you live of pure intent, and the fact is your mind is also very pure, then that also gives you happiness as well.
What is the question that you'd love to answer, but no one's ever asked you yet?
Well, I've never been asked that, so I probably would be, where would you see Ayurveda in 10 years' time in the Western world?
Okay, and where would you see Ayurveda in 10 years' time?
Well, with the help of definitely Deepak Chopra, with how he has linked with Oprah Winfrey, has actually taken Ayurveda a little bit more to the Western world and actually allowed people to see that knowledge. I think it's definitely coming faster than ever before.
And for example, in a practical sense, where do you see in 10 years' time Ayurveda, both in the Western world and India, in terms of how will people be applying it? How will Western medicine view Ayurveda?
I think because Ayurveda being 5,000 years old.
Wow, 5,000 years.
And it's been in India for all of that time. And the doctors in India are very, very highly trained. So it's very difficult to become an Ayurvedic doctor. And unfortunately, we don't have that degree yet here in the Western medicine. But in 10 years' time, I would love to actually see that Ayurveda comes as a degree for the Westerners to actually study that, to bring that knowledge and science to the Western world.
Okay, so you said it's 5,000 years old. Isn't it a little bit outdated? How people were living 5,000 years ago, their lifestyle, what they did for work, what they did for leisure. it's very different to what people are doing now. We're currently in a very, as we said before, depressed, stressed, but nicely dressed lifestyle, constantly on the run. What we're faced with today isn't the same as what they were faced with 5,000 years ago. So how can those principles be applied to our life today?
Niti, that's why I actually love Ayurveda so much, is because the fact is Ayurveda is never changing. So how it treated 5,000 years ago of diabetes, cardiac disease, all different types of disease state, it still treats exactly the same. And the reason being is because Western medicine is always looking at like the new research, this, you know, oh, guess what, we're doing this, or this diet is now working. And so people just jump onto fads and keep changing, you know. And one of the things I love about Ayurveda, it says that if you live accordingly to your body type and you live into the seasons of your body type, then your body will be well. And the fact is that when that channel or impact to your body is in disease, then you work through a certain process to actually solve that problem. But it never changed, but it still treats everybody as unique. But the fact is that channel gets diseased by a certain reason, you know, so that's what I love so much about that.
Okay, excellent. So it's not, so even if we're faced with new diseases like polio or SARS, even though they didn't exist all those many thousands of years ago, we can still work to manage them using the principles of Ayurveda?
Yeah, definitely, because you know, you'll have a look at some of those life-threatening diseases. There are always some people who don't actually get it, you know, and we always go, well, why is it that they didn't get it? And Ayurveda looks at the principles. If you have a good digestion and your immune system is at its height, it will be able to fight off any sort of disease that comes in. So the fact is, it always goes back to the simplicity of Ayurveda is the science of life, and actually how is your body operating on a daily basis.
Okay, wonderful. So it's more that we can use Ayurveda and Western medicines hand in hand in accordance to live an absolutely healthy and happy life. So thank you very much. That was Jo Formosa with a talk on Ayurveda, Clinical Director of Back to Health and founder of Ayurveda 360. Thank you very much.